A bank robber walked into two Pittsburgh banks in broad daylight with no mask and robbed them both. His name was MacArthur Wheeler. When police arrested him hours later, he was genuinely shocked. He'd covered his face in lemon juice because he believed it would make him invisible to security cameras. This wasn't drugs. This wasn't mental illness. This was a man so incompetent he didn't know how incompetent he was. And that bizarre case inspired two psychologists to discover one of the most important cognitive biases affecting human behavior. Right now, in June 2026, you're probably overconfident about something. Maybe it's your driving skills, your ability to spot fake news, your relationship advice, and you have no idea. Today, we're diving into the Dunning-Kruger Effect, the psychological phenomenon that explains why ignorance breeds confidence while expertise breeds doubt. And by the end, you'll understand why the worst performers consistently overestimate their abilities while the best performers underestimate theirs. This isn't just academic theory. A 2025 study found that 73% of professionals overestimate their performance at work. 3 out of 4 people think they're better than they actually are. Let's start with what this effect actually is and why it happens. In 1999, David Dunning and Justin Kruger from Cornell University conducted a series of experiments. They gave people tests on humor, grammar, and logical reasoning. Then they asked each person to estimate how well they performed. The results were stunning. People who scored in the bottom 12% estimated they'd scored in the 62nd percentile. They thought they were above average when they were actually in the bottom tier. Meanwhile, the people who actually scored in the top quartile, they underestimated their performance. The most competent people in the room thought they were merely average. Dunning summarized it perfectly. The knowledge and intelligence needed to be good at something is exactly the same knowledge you need to recognize you're bad at it. Think about that. If you lack competence in an area, you lack the very ability to recognize your own incompetence. It's a cruel double curse. Since the original study, researchers have replicated these findings in over 40 different domains. Medical students, chess players, firearms safety, software developers. The pattern holds everywhere. In early 2026, a massive study of software engineers found that 68% of below-average programmers rated themselves as above average. They genuinely believed they were skilled when their code was full of bugs. So why does our brain do this to us? Why are we wired to be confidently wrong? First, there's what psychologists call metacognition. That's your ability to think about your own thinking, to accurately assess what you know versus what you don't know. And here's the problem. Metacognition requires knowledge. When you're a beginner, you don't know enough to realize how much you don't know. The territory is so vast and unexplored that you can't even see the boundaries of your ignorance. Second, there's something called illusory superiority. Most people genuinely believe they're above average at most things. 93% of American drivers rate themselves as above average drivers. Mathématiquement impossible. Your brain protects your ego by inflating your self-assessment. It's a defense mechanism. Believing you're competent feels better than confronting your inadequacy. Third, confirmation bias kicks in. Once you think you're good at something, you notice all the times you succeed and ignore the times you fail. Your brain cherry-picks evidence that you're competent. And finally, true expertise is humbling. The more you learn about something, the more you realize how complex it is. Experts see all the nuance and gray areas that beginners miss completely. As Dunning himself said in a 2026 interview, the first rule of the Dunning-Kruger Club is you don't know you're a member of the Dunning-Kruger Club. Now let's talk about the 4 stages everyone goes through when learning anything new. Understanding these stages is crucial. Stage 1, unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. This is peak Dunning-Kruger territory. Maximum confidence, minimum skill. You think parallel parking is easy until you try it. Stage 2, conscious incompetence. This is when reality hits. You've learned enough to realize how much you suck. Confidence plummets. This is the valley of despair. Most people quit here. Stage 3, conscious competence. You're getting good, but it requires intense focus. You can parallel park, but you need to concentrate hard. One distraction and you mess up. Stage 4, unconscious competence. Mastery. You can do it without thinking. You parallel park while having a conversation and drinking coffee. The skill is automatic. Here's the kicker. People in stage 1 think they're in stage 4. And people in stage 4 often feel like they're still in stage 2 because they see all the nuance they're still working on. This explains so much human behavior. Why does your uncle think he understands economics after watching 3 YouTube videos? Stage 1. Why does your incredibly talented friend constantly doubt herself? Stage 4. Humility. The Dunning-Kruger Effect also explains why online arguments are so frustrating. The people most confident in their opinions often know the least about the topic. A 2025 study on social media debates found that users who spent the least time researching a topic were 42% more likely to state their opinions as absolute facts. Let's look at some real-world examples that'll make this crystal clear. In medicine, first-year medical students often diagnose themselves with rare diseases after learning about symptoms. They know enough to recognize patterns, but not enough to understand probability. By their 4th year, they're much more cautious. In business, a recent Harvard analysis found that entrepreneurs who'd never failed a business were 58% more likely to be overconfident about their next venture's odds. Meanwhile, experienced entrepreneurs with past failures gave realistic risk assessments. In relationships, people who've been in the fewest relationships give the most confident relationship advice. They haven't encountered enough complexity to realize every situation is different. Even in something as measurable as chess, players rated below 1,200 consistently overestimate their skill by 300 rating points. Players above 2,000 underestimate themselves by 50 points. The effect shows up in politics too. A 2026 study found that people who scored lowest on political knowledge tests were the most confident they were well-informed. Those who scored highest expressed the most doubt about their understanding. So how do you know if you're suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect right now? Here are the warning signs. First, you feel like something is easier than other people claim. Everyone says quantum physics is complex, but you think you get it after one article? Red flag. Second, you're highly confident with little experience. You've done 5 home repairs, and you're ready to renovate your entire house? That's stage 1 talking. Third, you don't seek feedback or admit mistakes easily. If criticism makes you defensive rather than curious, you might be protecting an inflated self-image. Fourth, you compare your knowledge to the general public rather than to experts. You know more than your friends about nutrition, so you think you're knowledgeable. But compared to dietitians, you're still a beginner. The antidote to Dunning-Kruger is what psychologists call intellectual humility. Actively seeking evidence you're wrong, assuming you have blind spots, asking for feedback from people more skilled than you. Studies show that one of the best ways to overcome this bias is to test yourself. Dunning's research found that when people took a test and immediately saw their score, the confidence gap shrunk by 70%. Another technique: assume you're wrong until proven right. Instead of asking, "Why am I correct?" ask, "What would I need to see to change my mind?" This single question transforms your thinking. Surround yourself with people who will call out your nonsense. The most successful people in any field have mentors and peers who challenge them constantly. Remember, feeling uncertain doesn't mean you're incompetent. Often, it means you're finally competent enough to see the complexity. Doubt is a sign of growing wisdom. If this video just made you question your own competence in a few areas, that's actually a great sign. Self-awareness is the first step toward genuine expertise. The irony of the Dunning-Kruger effect is that recognizing it in yourself means you're probably moving past it. Your brain is developing the metacognition to see its own blind spots. That's rare. That's valuable. Use it wisely.